And we are back on Getting a Grip on the Michigan Business Network. Thanks for being a part of this podcast, listening to it. You can check it out every week on the Michigan Business Network and streamed anytime you want to stream it. There's a lot of other great programming on the Michigan Business Network that I encourage you to check out. I'm a little biased. I think this one might be the best. I don't know. That hasn't been empirically proven, and there's no statistics behind that, but I just tend to believe it somehow.
Uh,
Um, at least for me, I enjoy listening to it the most.
I
Uh,
believe you, Mike.
do you believe it? And one of the reasons I enjoy this so much is I get to have really cool guests like Ken Bogard on this show. Ken, another EOS implementer like myself in Michigan, known for open and honesty. And I say that because it's so impactful. And if you listen to the first segment, you've heard us talk about the impact it can have. Where we left off, Ken, was the openness aspect of it and just how important that is and what it meant for you, like how it changed you. And so I'd like to continue with that a little bit and tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so the two sides of it are to be open and to be honest. And a lot of people are prepared to be honest, right? I'm ready to dive in with my thing, how I feel, what I want. And it's very one. It's not many. It's not others. It's to serve you. Honesty is to serve you in large part, in large part.
Yeah.
And I think we've built this me, myself, and I type culture. And so that's where society is going. Power of vulnerability, delegate and elevate to your unique ability. A lot of these things that serve self. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm
Mhm.
just saying that's all we've been focused on. And so we need the other side of it. And quite frankly, honesty is sexier than me trying to sell openness, because openness is about others and it's harder and it takes energy and effort to dive into that. But once you do and you really get good at it, and openness meaning listen to one another without reservation and just seek to understand somebody else, right? Listen to somebody else without reservation. Put your needs and wants on pause for someone else. When you really learn how to do that, a lot of your stress goes away, your want and need for control goes away, and you allow somebody else to have space. What a powerful thing to allow somebody else to be truly and freely themselves, where they're not being judged and you're not jamming expectations down their throat and you're just letting them be. And when I really got good at this, I'll tell you a book that really helped me with this is Untethered Soul
Mm.
by Michael Singer. I mean, it's a little bit woo woo, and it's got Buddhism, Christianity, it's got some other things in it. So you got to be prepared for that. But it doesn't get into religion. It more so just gets into like how important it is to just be and not let your thoughts and these expectations take you over. Because dude,
Yeah.
it's killing you and killing your soul. And so, anyways, that book's a big recommendation from me to anybody listening who wants to work on openness, but it will help you ease all your aggression and your control. And it certainly changed my life. And when I learned about this book and I heard it, Gino Wickman, by the way, who we owe many thanks to for this beautiful system that is EOS, that is changing the world. We're not talking just Michigan or the United States, but changing the world. We owe him many thanks. But he also told me it's one of his top books, most life-changing books of all time. So,
Well, that's a pretty strong recommendation.
mhm.
And yeah, it's that's a fascinating topic about how that changed you, made you a different person and a better person. And I think it's a lesson we all can learn because the pressures around us are pushing us in the opposite direction, right? They're pushing us to be a little bit more guarded, a little less open, a little less honest. And the result is, and I heard this, you didn't say this specifically, but what I heard was the result is anxiety, stress, baggage, runaway thoughts. These are things that are literally killing people. They're killing us. And to get to a point where you talked about where it made you more, okay, just being yourself, just accepting where you were and accepting others where they are. It provides so many things. I do some work with anxiety disorder because I've had that. Been person who's had anxiety disorder my entire life and been through all kinds of treatments. And in fact, I'm speaking in Grand Rapids on September 11th about this to an organization. But the and for listeners, I'll get this posted out when I'm speaking. But one of the things about anxiety is it's self-induced unintentionally through just being closed. And what happens when your mind is clouded like that and you're living in that headspace, you can't even think rationally. Clarity of thought doesn't exist because your brain just starts to shut down and you start to think with the back of your brain, and it's a miserable place to be. And I know so many executives, business people, friends, that's their day-to-day existence. And it doesn't have to be like that. Like, I don't think we were designed to live that way. But in society today, it's like that. I think it's only accelerated too because of how fast-paced our society is. I mean, everything's instantaneous. We have access to anything we want to know on our phone at any time. And we don't even have to push the buttons. We just ask the virtual assistant. Like an AI pops up and tells us, it might not be truthful, but we can get any information we want. So we're constantly moving, and just to be untethered, right? To use the book from the term from the book is just that's so powerful to me.
Yeah, great. I'd love to see you speak if I can have access. I'd have to check my calendar, but what an important topic. And please steal anything about openness you want to around that too. The freedom, yeah, you're trapped with anxiety. You're closed, is what you're saying. And what we're talking about here is a freedom to be who you are and a freedom to be heard and respected. And so I think about my clients when they first come into the session room. A lot of them are bringing in that anxiety, and a lot of them are coming in closed-minded. And so they got their walls up, and it's pent up and it's here, and then it rears its head in strange ways.
Yeah.
And then not willing to always be fully honest. So we don't know where they're really at. They won't admit it. So if they do struggle with anxiety, right, Mike, you shared that about yourself and your past, maybe still to this day, some things. I know I have it from time to time. But for the most part, when you really embrace honesty and openness, that stuff goes away.
Oh
And you're
yeah.
actually able to absorb almost anything
Yeah.
said to you in any circumstance that hits you. And all of a sudden, I have this team in front of me that's just totally empowered to handle any challenge that hits them because they've embraced those concepts.
Yeah, it's so interesting, and I can use myself as a case study for all the points you've made, and they've been brilliant. That whole topic of anxiety disorder, I've had so many business colleagues ask me over the years, even before I was an EOS implementer and a business coach, back when I was running my company and we were growing. I've been committed to being really out front about the fact that, hey, I struggle with anxiety disorder, and at points in my life, it was debilitating. Like, I had moments that were just, panic attacks, and the thought you couldn't function, and all kind OCD and all kinds of. And I've had so many friends, colleagues, and business people say, yeah, do you really want to be like that out there with that? What about the market? Like, I've had marketing managers that worked for me say, I don't know that, like, do you want to be, because what if potential clients see that as a negative? And I've always been committed to, you know what, I'm going to be completely out there with this. I'm going to be open for two reasons. One is it's the truth of who I am. So, Mr. or Miss Marketing Manager, you're always talking to me about my brand being my real voice and being really me when I'm in the marketplace and I'm marketing and branding. I can't really be me if I'm not being honest, right? You want me to be honest. Number two, I can help people. I think I have a story to tell. And number three, by being out there and open with something like that, it takes the power of whatever that thing is away. Like, it's no longer controlling me. I'm controlling it. Like, and that's a very brief synopsis of a lot of what I'll talk about on September 11th. I'll send you the link to the registration for that. It's at the Anxiety Resource Center, an organization that I helped found like 30 years ago, and I still sit on the board of. But um, that's an example, a case study, right? So society and business was saying, oh, be a little bit more careful with how you present that. And I went the other way, just kind of maybe out of selfish reasons, because I'm like, I need to just be truthful about this,
Mm-hmm.
right? So,
I'm
and
getting
the power,
goosebumps. I'm getting goosebumps, Mike.
yeah, the
Oh,
result
you're
was the
sharing something
opposite.
great.
We gained clients. People were like, "Oh, we can trust Mike." And clients today are like, "Oh man," I've had a lot of them pull me aside afterward and say, "You know, I struggle with panic attacks, and you were honest about this. Where can I get help?" And I'm like, "Oh
Mhm.
man, there's so much help. Like, and I can get them connected to people." I mean, to me, that's what it's all about.
Think about that. So just where my head's going, we should co-write some sort of blog that says don't share that or something like that,
I
and
love
maybe
that.
and if somebody hears this before it and writes it, so be it, but at least you're helping out the world. But I think that comes up a lot. And my father raised me that way. So I was raised solo by my father. He's a stoic German, Lutheran, retired engineer, loving father. And
Yep.
but he did say things like, "You can't tell people you have anxiety. They're gonna see you as weak." You
Yeah.
can't tell people that, you're having this issue with health, that's not gonna bode well for you. And so he did a lot of that to me. And I think, I embraced that for a while. And to a degree, maybe there's something in there that helps us be a bit resilient with things. But ultimately, it catches up with you because you keep trapping this thing inside and you don't have anywhere to go with it because you've been taught don't share that. And a lot of the reason you've been taught that is because this world is so judgy,
Oh
and
yeah.
they cast all sort of things on you that makes you think you can't share this. The crazy thing is most of the world's experienced anxiety. And so it's like, we try to act like only 1% of leaders have anxiety, and that's completely BS. And so all of a sudden, Mike, you share this, you've just humanized it for everyone. And you've given everybody permission to just be who they are and actually deal with the thing. It's beautiful. I love that you're talking on the subject, such a problem.
I'd love to co-author a blog on "Don't Share That" or some title like that because I think it's so prevalent, and and you see it in executives and leaders a lot where they feel like they have to portray an image that isn't really them, like, or it's a distortion of who they really are. They're afraid to admit often, and I say they because I've learned over the many years I've been doing this that it, I was in that camp too, where you feel like you've got to fit a certain image, and you can't admit when you don't know. You can't admit when you made a mistake. You can't admit because people will see that as weakness, but it's the complete opposite. What I found in organizations and the companies that I've grown and built, and then in coaching teams that are doing the same thing, is a leader who's willing to say, I don't know, or I screwed up, like this was a big mistake, or I really am struggling with this. The teams will rally to that. They're motivated by honesty. That good people want to follow a leader who's vulnerable, who doesn't have all the answers, who's human, because
Mhm.
they can find a leader who's a facade of leadership anywhere. There's thousands of them, stuffed suits. You see them everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Authenticity is hard to find.
Right. Oh, I agree with you fully. I love it. We need to write this blog soon. So before we
Yeah,
launch this thing, it's
yeah,
already written. We better jump on it because I think it's such a hot topic. And to a degree, don't share that. If we can put a piece of it around, other people need to be open to somebody's problem. Right. So if somebody's sitting here with anxiety and you find yourself judging them, please question that. Please just stop for a moment and stop your own thoughts because you're already projecting yourself onto them. You haven't even
right.
given them the chance to have their space to express it. And so just you know, stop and just
Yeah,
listen to them for a second and try to understand why might they have anxiety? Where did they come from? What challenges brought this upon them? How tough is it for them right now? And just start thinking, get curious and try to seek to understand. And then how do we collaborate and help that individual, if they're still experiencing it, work through it? Now that's powerful. When a team rallies around each other as opposed to putting up walls and all this extra comparison stuff to try to get one up on somebody else, that's toxic and it's going to go ahead and kill your team. You do all
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
to really hear somebody out.
What you're describing is servant leadership. That's what servant leadership is being willing to ask, put your own biases, your own judgment aside, and just be curious about what led to this. We don't know what people go through. I tell my kids this. I've raised 5 kids, and I tell them all the time, it's easy to judge somebody. It's easy to just make assumptions. Well, if they only got a job, or if they only stopped doing this, or if they only started doing that, but you don't know the path they've been on. You don't know the circumstances in their life. You don't know what led to today. And you need to know all that before you form an opinion about what they should or shouldn't do, because you don't know, you don't have the information. And to me, that's servant leadership. Like, the example that I take in the Bible is that was what was asked a lot. If you look at whether you're a Christian or not, you can get something from Jesus's style of leadership. And for me, when I look at how he led, he asked questions all the time. Like, and he really sought to understand the people he interacted with before he said anything. And that's servant leadership, right? And it's what you're advocating too.
Think about in the Bible. Now, I'm not versed super well. I am a Christian. I did go to Christian schools for most of my life, but in general, when Jesus approached somebody and was going to be there in the story to help, the individual generally shared some sort of vulnerability
Yeah.
and opened up to him and said, "Whoa, you can't talk. I'm a sinner. Don't come to me."
Yeah.
And so that person actually is admitting something and sharing something. And he's like, "I'm here for you." Just kind of a powerful moment that I picture in the Bible is that taking place time and time and time again. But the people are like, "I'm amazing," even though they know they got all these problems in their life. The ones that aren't vulnerable aren't the one, they're not opening up to anything, anyone, or something, right? They're
Yeah.
just totally closed off. So I think this is probably another podcast, but in the world of Christianity, opening up and letting him in, I think is really crucial. And
Yeah.
we're doing less and less of that now.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think churches are like any other organization. They sometimes give in to the outside pressures and forces to be closed, to be just to be a facade, to look a certain way, to have a certain image, to be not vulnerable, not open, not honest. And that just happens naturally. You got to fight against it, which is why I love what you're doing with the book. So the book's coming out, and the book is called No Honesty, right?
You got it.
K.
KNOW.
Yep. And it's co-authored between you and your business partner.
Yeah, Grace Gavin, who's a rock star. She's incredible. And so no honesty, eliminate the divide, become a masterful communicator, and connect with anyone.
That's
And
awesome.
that'll all be available. It is on Barnes and Nobles for pre-order, and it will be on Amazon here shortly. And it's already highly requested by different clients and other people. And so I think we're on to something, Mike.
Oh, I know you are, and I'm looking forward to the book. I can't wait. I'm going to have my copy and dive in, and then I'm going to start working on our blog. I'll get back to you on that. We're going to have to get that going too. Before I let you go, this has been awesome, Ken. This has been so much fun. I always like to ask my guests about something that motivates them, right? So I think human beings, we all need motivation, right? So that could come from, I don't know. For me, it's movie scenes. It could be a song. It could be a poem. It could be something, like a place, like a beautiful place. What motivates you? Does anything come to mind when I describe that? Something that just pops up as, hey, I need a little extra motivation today. This is where I would go.
I'm going to end it with a quote from Untethered Soul, but I will let you in on a couple movies that I have enjoyed. And one has, and I can't even think of the title of it, but Dr. Manhattan in it. He's a superhero. He's blue. The controversy was he was a naked blue character in the movie from time to time. So they ended up covering him up. But he's this brain that just knows all things, and he's well beyond the human beings. But he talks about how improbable life is
Uh,
to be just some sort of coincidence,
yeah.
basically. And how this person doesn't like this person, but they came together and they had this child, and all these things came together to make this exact day. And so how special every moment is. It's just really cool. And then
That's awesome.
my favorite movie of all time is Inception with Leonardo DiCaprio, and how deep that movie goes into dreams and gets you thinking. And so I like the deeper stuff, Mike, and that
Yeah.
moves me and it challenges me to think differently. But the quote I want to give you from Untethered Soul is this, and this is motivation, maybe in a different way, not like rah rah,
Yeah.
but to absorb and handle things in life. But this quote comes from Michael Singer, and I hope I got it exactly right. All of life's problems are not the problems themselves. Rather, the commotion the mind makes about those problems. And so we have problems
Love
pop
it.
up,
I love
and we
it.
make so much commotion, sometimes over the smallest little things, and that occupies our life. And so oftentimes when I'm hit with a challenge, I go back to that quote and I think about the commotion my mind's making, and I get it out of there and I get refocused. That
That's
moves me.
beautiful. That's me too, man. I got goosebumps from that. So I can't thank you enough, Ken. This has been awesome. Thanks for being on the program.
Care about you, brother. You're awesome at this. This is the best show.
See,
It is.
there's the proof I was looking for.
Uh-huh.
Hey, thanks everybody for listening to Getting a Grip. The Bottom Line IT was my previous podcast years ago. Getting a Grip on the Michigan Business Network. Ken Bogart's been my guest. We'll catch you on the flip side. Have a great day, everybody.